at the end of the year, I had like a breakdown that it was so much going on in my mind, and it was a lot of traveling. It was a lot of matches.
So people see professional athletes, whatever the sport is, as robots. You just get to travel. You only think about their performances. If they lose a couple of early round matches, you say, oh, he's having a bad season, he's not good enough, etc. But you don't know everything else that's going on.
Especially if you are going from, in this case, from Riyadh in the Middle East to Europe to play another Premier and to go on to Cancun in Mexico. And in like 3 weeks, you are in 3 different timelines. Yeah, the thing with the double bites, for me, it's really ridiculous. And you only have like 4 matches to play for the title. It's ridiculous. They have to like do that kind of scheduling more professionally. So the players are able to rest and to make the travel to the tournament.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Padel Pod, your weekly podcast covering professional padel, presented by Hugo and Gons. We're on to episode 86, and as always, joined by my co-host here today, Hugo. It's great to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Gons. But I think it's time to introduce the most important person on the call and our main event, our main guest, and it's none other than Daniel WINDAHL. Danny, how's it going?
I'm feeling really good now. Thank you for having me on, and very nice to meet you guys.
Thanks very much for joining.
Yeah, Daniel, appreciate you joining the show. I think this is quite special on many levels. Firstly, you are the highest ranked player that we've ever had on the podcast. So, I mean, that is obviously huge for us, that we're big padel fans. I think secondly as well, you're from Sweden. And I think Swedish is definitely one of our biggest audiences that we have. So I'm sure that all the padel fans in Sweden are going to love to hear what you got to say. So yeah, I mean, echo what Hugo was saying, and really special to have you on. Maybe to start, we'd love to just get a little bit of a quick introduction about yourself, of course. And the question that we always ask the players that we interview is, how did you get into padel? Because we hear a lot of different answers.
Yeah, well, from my side, it's started when I was playing tennis, actually, when I had an ongoing career, when I was like 17, 18. And in that moment, I was not feeling good. I was actually in a depression, and I was very not feeling well. So actually, paddle was coming to me like a rock from the sky. So that was so important for me to laugh again. I hadn't been laughing so much lately, and when I was turning 20, I had been struggling with this depression and suicidal situation for me. And when I was 20, I switched actually out tennis for paddle. So in many cases, I see paddle as a life boat in that case. So it's a different story, but that's how I got into paddle.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly powerful. Obviously, extremely sorry to hear that you've had to kind of go through that period and that depression. And obviously, thank you so much for sharing that with us and being public about it, because obviously it's super brave to come out in the public and say that. And we're obviously really glad that kind of paddle has been that rock for you. And I mean, you've clearly demonstrated that you are one of the best players in the world, and you've given a lot to paddle as well. So that's incredible to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think. I'm sure there's a lot of people around the world that use paddle for a lot of different reasons, right? But one of them being improving their mental health, their happiness, enjoying the game, smiling. And obviously our kind of podcast focuses a lot on tournaments and just players and performances and pairs, but you very quickly forget probably the main reason, but one of the main reasons why people play sport globally, and entertainment, enjoying themselves. So yeah, it's great to hear that that's the way you got in.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's actually the core of playing this sport, and should be doesn't matter what level you are on. It has to be like you play for the happiness of your own sake. Either you are amateur, professional, or whatever you are. So that's the main thing, actually.
Yeah,
Agreed.
maybe if I just quickly may ask, where did you first play? Was it in Spain that you were over there, or was it actually in Sweden where you discovered paddle?
It was actually in Sweden. They had like a pop-up court in a small city called Båstad, a city with 10,000 people. I'm sure you heard of it because of the tennis the tennis mecca. One summer we had a camp with the federation team in tennis. We had afternoon off and decided to go to play some paddle. So actually in Sweden, not in Spain.
Nice, nice. And so, well, maybe moving on to start with last season, maybe 2024. It'd be great to hear kind of how it went, your main positives, maybe a few of the negatives, anything that you'd like to kind of share with us and our fans.
Yeah, no, but 2024 was actually was a good year, resultly wise. I was playing good, and a lot of things happened 2024. I got married, my brother got married, and I was playing terrific paddle. And but at the end of the year, I had like a breakdown. It was so much going on in my mind, and it was a lot of traveling. It was a lot of matches. So I went through the wall actually, and in October, I couldn't bear to go up to bed and do the fitness sessions or the paddle matches. So it kind of like ended really bad. Still, resultly wise, it was a good year, and I was playing a terrific paddle. But that was the sake of my mental health in the end, because I actually ignored my like signal from the body alongside the traveling and the pressure I put on myself. To sum it up, it was a year that I learned very much from myself and what I'm capable of, but what I needed to moving forward. And at the moment, to move forward here and now, I need to have the happiness, to still have the happiness I once found in the sport when I was 20 years old and so on. But 2024 was a roller coaster, but I somehow see it as a very, very good experience.
I mean, it's obviously, as you said, kind of a stepping stone in both your kind of professional career, but also your own personal life, right? And as you said, I think it's easy to forget that normally people see professional athletes, whatever the sport is, as robots. You just get to travel. You only think about their performances. If they lose a couple of early round matches, you say, oh, he's having a bad season, he's not good enough, etc. But you don't know everything else that's going on in the background. I'm sure that our fans and viewers in general are going to be really, really interested to hear, thoughts from the inside and the ins and outs of what a professional player has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I know a lot of players have shared their thoughts on the fact that right now Premier Padel involves too much traveling, and you're away from your family and all that you don't think about that when you idolize all the top players, but actually there's a lot of tough moments of being a professional athlete, right?
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, like it's not many people that are thinking about what a traveling day is going to do with your body, especially if you are going from, in this case, from Riyadh in the Middle East to Europe to play another Premier and to go on to Cancun in Mexico. And in like 3 weeks, you are in 3 different timelines. And that is just something that they are just adding on alongside that. You have to be there in time. You have to be sleeping well. You have to do your paddle session, the fitness sessions, and all that. It's the scheduling is, for me, it's not professional enough to perform as you want, because it's the moment. It's just the one who can survive in the toughest conditions. And I think they got a lot to learn when it comes to that form of questions. And it's not rainbow and fairy tales all the time. So it's a different story when you are seeing the backgrounds, especially in my case. If you just see the streams, you don't see the preparation. You might not even know that in my case, in October, I didn't sleep for 2-3 months. I just went to sleep 2-3 hours a night. And the only you are judging, it's the way that you are playing. And yeah, it's hard to know, but it's really important to understand what these players are going through to support them and to give them some kind of energy on somehow.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you say is completely true. And maybe also I just want to congratulate you and your brother, obviously, for getting married. I myself am getting married later on this year.
Nice. Congratulations.
But, no, congratulations to you. It seems like what you've kind of just been speaking about, and also very similar to other players, as Hugo said. So we had Sam Jones. I'm not sure if you know him, but he's GP's number
sure.
2. Yeah. We had him, and he shared kind of very similar concerns around the paddle tour and the amount of traveling and kind of the whole organization of it. And I kind of just wanted to ask you, with everything that you just mentioned, it seems like you learned a lot this year, and kind of want to ask you, how are you going to approach this 2025 season? And is this something that you're taking into account, potentially selecting or being able to plan a bit better around tournaments and stuff?
Yeah, of course, something that you don't think about out of my perspective and Sam's perspective, that I don't know if he's speaking Spanish or so, but a lot of information we are receiving is in a different language that we need to learn. And it's kind of weird when you're playing international sport. And so basically the non-Spanish speaking people are forced to understand the Spanish language. And that is not one thing that you don't really understand if you haven't experienced it. And of course, I will take like 2024 in a lot of consideration for 2025. And to be honest, at the moment, I don't have a plan for this 2025 because of the experience I received in October last year. And I was going through a very tough time with my mental health. And now it's not like a pattern, but I've experienced this before. So I need to really be careful what I'm taking up as a challenge. And at the moment, it's not to travel 35-40 weeks on a calendar year from Middle East to America or to South America. And at the moment, I'm just considered just to play a tournament and see how it goes, and just to plan like day by day, week by week. And if I'm ready to participate in the Premier Padel again, I will not close that door. But at the moment, that is not my goal. My goal is just to feel happiness through my work, which is Padel, and have that as a compass, no matter what I'm taking on at the moment.
I mean, I think something that at least like really stands out from what you're saying is that you've learned a lot about yourself, learned a lot about your body, learned a lot about your limits, which I think is one of the most important things to do, right? And I don't want to compare kind of myself and Hugo to you, but
It's fine.
To a much lesser extent, we are paddle addicts and we love to play every day, but there's certain points where we've gone way too far, right? All of a sudden, as you say, it's kind of taken a bit of a toll on your body. You're waking up the next day, you haven't slept well because you finished super late playing. And at the end of the day, being able, like, learning to actually say, like, okay, actually, you know what, today I'm going to rest and I'm not going to do anything just for the sake of my body and my own mental health. And that's going to be potentially in the short term, it might be a bit annoying because you're not playing, but the gains that you get in the long term are just are uncomparable.
Yeah, no, it's a different world, but it's so many positive things as well. You get to do what you love, and in a big tournament. And as a kid, I had a dream to be on the tour, but the tennis tour, the ATP tour, and traveling these kind of amount of weeks, like 35-40 weeks a year. And it's kind of like, it's my dream. But I just have to have the formula to be happy alongside those kind of weeks when I'm not there with my wife or family and so on. So it's a balance you need to take as a consideration.
For sure.
For sure. And obviously Gonz's case study that he just mentioned is a very different world, because we're pretty amateur when it comes to playing. I mean, we're getting there, but we're still at obviously nothing compared to anything professional. But maybe moving on to paddle in Sweden. And I've heard a lot about, well, potentially the sport kind of decelerating a bit in the country because, well, obviously there was a massive boom, loads of courts and clubs were built. And I've read a lot of articles online about clubs being shut down and courts being shut down because, well, there's almost too much offer and not enough demand. And it'd be great to get your kind of thoughts, given that you're very much within that landscape and know about it.
No, but the thing is that the interest of Padel is increasing. Actually, the amount of courts we have in Sweden, it's way off the limit. Because during the COVID year, the 2020, 2021, the amount of center and the amount of court that was building up that year and after that was insane. It was like, for example, in my childhood town, Helsingborg, which lives like about 100,000 people, I think they had at one point over 100 courts, and it's like that is insane. And if you compare that in the whole Sweden, that you can easily do the math that, okay, it's way above. You need maybe the amount of people in Argentina or USA to still have those courts fully booked every day. So that is the struggle. But the interest of Padel is still increasing. You can just see it on the free live stream. There are still like 3,000, 4,000 unique viewers on like a studio Padel, if you have seen them on YouTube. And so the interest of Padel is increasing, but the amount of courts is still too many, according to the people that are actually paying like every week. So I think there were maybe half a year, 1 year more, then we will see like more or less a stabilization of like centers that could actually benefit the sport, to not be compared with the centers that are actually going in a bad direction. So to sum it up, the interest is increasing. It's just, it needs to stabilize with the courts as well.
Interesting. And maybe linked to that, and maybe just as a question, as your own personal opinion is, given that the interest is growing, and given that obviously the facilities are there, people playing, and the number of people playing, I'm assuming, is growing as well. How far off do you think are we from seeing a Swedish player within the top 30 of the rankings, I'd say? Because, I mean, 50, if I'm not mistaken, you've already managed to do that, right? So you've already been in the top 50. Congratulations, firstly.
Thank you.
But yeah, maybe the top 30, for example?
Yeah, but I wish that I could say to you, like, yeah, I will break that record. But at the moment, I don't have a plan, so I cannot give that answer. But the quality in Sweden is there, and the amount of players we have should be like enough to move in the top 30, because I've seen so much talent in Sweden that it's just the question is, okay, how bad do they want it? Do they just kind of want it, or do they really want it? It's a huge difference, because if you put that as a perspective that they need to maybe play with like a partner from Argentina or Spain that doesn't really know how to speak English, and the Swedish player doesn't know how to speak Spanish. And in that kind of situation, you should still be able to communicate with your partner, to have a stable collaboration, to have the practice together, and to travel with them 35, 40 weeks a year. And I think the quality is there. And if I would say, I would not say a name, but I think the quality is enough to beat like top 30. But the question is, how bad do they want it? Are they willing to move to another country? Are they willing to sacrifice not their friends, but the time with their friends and family? And in that question, I'm not sure about everyone, but hopefully they are saying like, yeah, we really want it, but that is the main thing. How bad do they want it? And after that, put on a schedule, put on a road, and get your ass worked. And so that is my take on it.
And I think kind of related to this, and you've alluded to it, and it's something that I've always thought about, which is within the, let's say, 100 best players, 200 best players, if you technically, everyone is probably super close, right? Everyone can do all the shots. But I think something that maybe you pointed out, which is maybe the differentiator, and this is maybe just a quick question that I want to ask you, is do you think that's basically the main difference between kind of the players that are the top 30 and potentially the players that are trying to get into that top 30 or outside that top 30, which is the I really wanted element of it, kind of that mental side?
Yeah, both that typical question, but if you take it shot by shot, it's not that kind of big difference. It's more like, obviously the mental part, but actually when it comes to like a high performance point with a break point, with a set point down or up, the quality you are playing at that particular moment, that is the main difference. If you're taking out Tapia, because for me, Tapia is the best player in the world, but the other guys, they are like shot by shot. They are not that kind, like it's not that big difference. It's more like they can do that in a longer time and in more important points. So that is the big difference, and partially mentally, but to play the best, the ability of yourself, and to play that in our important points.
Super interesting. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. I think another question, maybe moving off like this kind of topic of paddle in Sweden, but we wanted to ask you, obviously, if you don't mind asking, or if you don't mind us asking, sorry, just kind of your earnings in terms of how much does it come from your sponsor versus tournament wins. I think we kind of want to let our audience and kind of know, it would be great for you to tell them just how the reality of it is paddle right now, right? I think we're aware that it's still quite hard to make a living off paddle, and we've seen many players in the past actually having to drop off playing professionally and actually maybe going into coaching or teaching because they sincerely just earn more money that way. So obviously you don't have to disclose any figures at all, but just to share like percentage wise, it would be great to understand.
Yeah, the most of the money I receive, it's through the collaboration, obviously. And at the moment, the prize money on the Premier Paddle, it's too low to make a living of it, but it's still like something to add on if you are not playing the quarterfinal in the big tournaments and onwards. Then you are receiving a good pile of money. In the end, it's the collaboration, the events, and the clinics that you are obligated to help. So that is the most important thing you have as player. Maybe 65% of the sponsorship, and the rest is like events, clinics, maybe some practices, and and the prize money. So I think if you really want to increase the amount of players that are making a living off paddle, then you should like increase the amount of prize money, because there it's the big difference in the tennis. It's that particular question, and I think it has to be increased a lot to help the players in that.
For sure. And I think even in tennis, right, we've seen also kind of awards from players that are maybe potentially top 200 or something like that, saying how much they struggle. So if in tennis that's the case, like I can't even imagine how tough it must be in paddle. Because at least in tennis as well, sometimes we do, if you make it past the first round, or if you are in the first round of a Grand Slam, you might potentially be able to at least sustain yourself that year. And obviously anything on top of that is even better. But in that regard, definitely paddle has a long way to go still.
Yeah, for sure. But I think they actually have the opportunity to increase it, but I don't know why they are not doing it. I haven't been having the those kind of meetings. But if you look it from the outside, they have like a huge investors, and that could easily increase it like a 5-10% per year. I hope they are considering it, actually, at least.
I mean, I totally agree. When you look at the figureheads of the sport, I mean, you've got PSG's pretty much owner and president. So
yeah,
I'd be surprised if they don't have the capacity or the potential to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, but that actually probably leads very well into probably one of our last topics that we'd want to discuss today. And it's Premier Padel. Obviously, the big controversy at the moment is that the Gijón P2 in Spain is about to start. And it's something like the top 100 players, more or less, are not participating. Now, obviously, I understand that your case is slightly different, but maybe it'd be good to get your thoughts on it, your own opinion, and also, well, would you have played?
Yeah, in my situation, I wouldn't be playing. But the thing with the double bites, for me, it's really ridiculous. If you're watching like the tennis athlete that are like playing the Grand Slam for 2 weeks, and the Masters, I don't know how many weeks, if it's like 1.5 or so. I think it's a double buy, and to start in the octavos, I don't know the
last 16,
last 16 to start tournament there, and only have like 4 matches to play for the title. It's ridiculous, because it should be not the other way around, but they to defend their like the number 1, number 2, and number 3 and onwards position. It should be a lot of hard work, and you should not be serving that on a silver plate to play the last 16 and get that kind of points and money from the start. In my opinion, it's ridiculous. I assume I haven't been following so closely with the players in the Gijón, but I assume they want to show something that they are okay. If you're not changing this, we will consider to make this as not as a boycott, but like a line. If you are not changing these kind of rules, you will not have any tour. And I don't know if that's the case, but in my logical head, for me, it would be logical to do that in that way. So I hope they are changing it very, very soon. But if I'm having a flight of idea on how they are doing this kind of question, I don't think they will do nothing, because they want to show who's in charge and show power, and that is something that will be real dangerous for the sport in the end. And I think they can find a conclusion that will be way more helpful in the end.
Yeah, no, I agree. Fingers crossed, because if I'm not mistaken, it seems like the inscriptions for the next tournament, which is the Cancun P2, if I'm not mistaken, they're open. And I think not many pairs have signed up either, which may be the case just because it's a P2. I'm quite intrigued to see whether players are still going to go with it for the P1s and the majors. But yeah, I mean, it's I think it's very bad for Padel generally. I think it's bad for people who have only just started following it, because it makes it seem like it's less professional.
Exactly.
And I mean, obviously for the fans, for the players, it's just chaos, really. So I really hope it does get solved soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And I think they will have to have some kind of answer and some sort of conclusion on it soon, because it's getting pretty dangerous for the sponsors locally and the organizers, and to know what's going on. But one thing, it's like we as a player, it's not obligated, but we almost have to play the biggest tournament. And it's quite interesting if they are playing this P1 in Cancun, if it's still the same situation as in Gijón. But there we will have our answer, I think.
No, for sure. And kind of maybe turning the question on its head, we've talked about potentially the problems that are facing Premier Padel, and obviously you've given us your thoughts, Daniel, but we wanted to ask you essentially kind of what solutions or what do you think can be improved?
I mean, the first thing is to get it more internationally with the commentators and the interviews, to get that in English, to make English like a language everybody could speak. And that's not the case at the moment, because if you want to gain some interest in the tour, you have to know the players on a certain point, to get to know them through the interviews, through the telly and so on. And that is to make it bigger, it has to be on a language that almost everybody could speak. So that is one point. And obviously the second point is the prize money and the help that the players are receiving. That, okay, at the moment, the qualifier players will have to stand for, they pay for their own accommodation. And if they are qualifying for the main draw, they will have their accommodation already paid. But I think in that question, you need to help the players that are not able to pay the tickets to Mexico or pay the tickets to Argentina. You know what? We are helping maybe the top from 80 position up to 140 position to, you know what? We're helping with some kind of hotel or some kind of flights to the long travel and that sort of thing. So yeah, those three things, I think, can they do that better? They have like a lot of things to do better. And if they're doing it, the paddle will growing a lot. The paddle will increase a lot this year. So yeah, those type of things. And as I said in the beginning of this conversation, they have to learn how to schedule the calendar year and to not to put the first tournament in the Middle East and 2 weeks later in Cancun and in Mexico. So they have to like do that kind of scheduling more professionally. So the players are able to rest and to make the travel to the tournament and to be like not fully rested, but at least prepared. If you are coming to Cancun in 1-2 days before, you're not giving yourself the chance to play your best paddle. Yeah, that's should be the most interest from the Premier Paddle, actually.
No, I think I agree with all of your points. I mean, Hugo and I discussed when the calendar was released how of a shit show it was. All this different, going from different time zones in absolutely no space of time. Then also when you mentioned about being more international, more English, when you told us earlier that all the documentation stuff you received is in Spanish, I was absolutely in shock, to be honest. Given as well how when you look at their social media, like they post everything and stuff in English, and it's just like it just kind of feels like that's what they're showing the outside world to make it seem that way. But then behind closed doors is just a completely different story. So that's obviously something to improve as well. And then the last point, I think I completely agree with you, and I think you hit the nail on the spot in terms of facilitating kind of the players that are currently lesser ranked to be able to reach those higher levels, even if it's by, as you say, paying accommodation so they don't need to do that. Because at the end of the day, and it's something that we notice, I think, towards the end of the year, right? Paddle was getting so repetitive. And if you just have the same people at the top always winning the same matches that you see every time, at the end of the day, that's not entertaining. And the one thing that I think differentiates sports from everything else is that it's live. You don't know what's going to happen, right? I think that's what makes sports so unique, and that's why everyone loves sports. So all of these different things that essentially try to make the players at the bottom be able to reach that top, I think just makes it, as you said, it will make paddle better, make the level better, make the product better, and it'll just make it more entertaining.
For sure. I couldn't agree with you more.
Great. Well, one thing we did want to touch on very quickly is obviously we've had you on for a lot of time. So thank you very much once again. We really appreciate it. But we want to maybe have a very quick fire round questions, just quick answer, first thing that comes to your head, maybe a bit more fun, interactive. So I'm going to kick it off, and I'd love to hear what you think is your best shot.
And my forehand volley.
That's a good best shot to have.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the more important ones.
I love to play it.
And maybe to reverse it, what would you say is your worst shot?
Wow, a lot of shots actually.
Not that many of
No,
you are
but
ranked that high. I don't believe
no,
you.
no. Maybe the tweener lob. I'm not that good on it.
I mean, that's pretty niche. I don't think many players can play the tweener lob.
That's also the best worst shot you can have.
Yeah, but Tape is really well good on that particular shot.
I mean, that actually leads on very well to the next question. And I think you've already shared it. I'd be surprised if you wouldn't say the same answer. And he is also my favorite player. But who is your favorite player?
Obviously, Tapia and alongside Coelho, they are a heavy couple to play against. And if you just sit and admire the play Tapia is playing, like in real life, I think it's very, I don't know how to, it's like a knife through the butter. It feels so, like,
Yeah, like silky.
it's silky, smooth, and he can do whatever he wants with the ball. And I love that kind of game.
And as well, maybe like the theme that he plays like he's having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
He plays with like a careless attitude, a carefree, and he's just having fun doing whatever he does, and that's how he comes up with these incredible shots. And maybe just a quick one as well. Who do you think will end 2025 as the number one ranked pair?
Yeah, to be a bit boring, I think still Tapia and Coelho. I don't see how they are gonna be challenged by some other couples for that position. But from tournament to tournament, I see some challengers as like Cardona, Augsburger in course that where the ball flies a lot. But yeah, Galan and Shingoto will have their share as well. But to be the ranked position number one, I think still Tapia and Coelho will defend their position in the end of the year.
Yeah, I think both Gons and I have shared multiple times already, and we're only in February that we think it will be the same result at the end of the year. I think Gons had one last question that he wanted to ask, given that, well, I don't want to take the credit because I thought it was really interesting. So Gons, feel free to ask.
Go for it.
Yeah, also quick fire. Who's the highest ranked player that you've received a call from to play together?
Oh, do I have to say name?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, you don't have to say it if not. You know.
No, but it's a top 30 player.
Okay. Wow. Top 30 player current FIG rankings.
I don't know currently. Maybe it's on the limit. I don't know. But at the moment that I was speaking to this guy, he was top 30.
Yes, well, maybe that means you're, and I very much think it'll be the case, but maybe that means that you will break the top 30 soon.
Maybe. We'll see. I will give it a try at least.
Nice. Well, I think that's it, right, Gons?
Yeah, Daniel, really, it's been a pleasure to have you on. You're always welcome. I mean, this podcast, I think, has been absolutely amazing to hear your thoughts on Premier Padel, obviously, how you shared your own story with us and kind of what you've gone through and how you've come up to, on the other side and you're still dealing with all the things that you're dealing, but still seems like you're in a really good spot and being able to learn a lot. So obviously with everything that's going on, we appreciate you so much for coming on and giving us a bit of your time.
Thank you for having me. And likewise, I'm feeling honored to be the highest ranked player you have been having on the podcast.
And I'm sure that will be the case for quite some time, particularly when you break the top 30 in a few months' time.
Exactly. When you break the top 30, we can do another one and then you'll have that record again.
Perfect. Thank you, lads.
Cheers, Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.